everyone, and welcome back to the channel, Say What's Real TV. We have made it to the season finale. This is the review for Hulu's Reasonable Doubt, Season 3, Episode 10. On to the next one. So we open up the episode exactly where we left off, with Daniel and Christian out to the cabin and him asking her, "Did you unalive Wendy?" She's stumbling and stammering, and she says, "I'll tell you everything that happened." And we go back 6 months. Now, how Christian is telling this part of the story is beyond me, because Christian was not there. But nevertheless, we see when Ozzy went over to his parents' house to basically fire them as his managers, and in turn, Rosie tells him about Wendy's freaky deep tape. So this time we see what went on inside of the house when he actually confronted her. And of course, Wendy has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. He's asking her for a demonstration, and she's like, "Are you high? Why are you acting like some mad crazy person?" He was like, "I'm crazy. You're the one that's crazy, but they say crazy coochie is the best coochie." So then they go to the scene that we, the audience, actually saw before it faded to black. So the next thing you know, he gets a knock on the door, so he snatches the door open thinking it's Wendy, but it's Monica. She's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "What are you doing here? Get Wendy to sign the NDA before she starts running her mouth." Now he's in a tower with his body all glistening and stuff, so Monica must have thought that was an invitation, like she can get some. So she tries to put her arms around his neck, and he's already mad and don't want to be bothered with her ass, and he snatches her arms, and the force caused her nails to put those scratches on his chest. Pretty much answering our question, how did they get there? We then see where Ozzy called Alex over, and he's in there getting high. So Alex let it be known that ever since Wendy locked Ozzy down, that he lost his biggest customer, but he thanked him for paying his rent for the month with this purchase. So Alex was like, "Where's your warden anyway?" And he said, "Somewhere probably with a D in her mouth." And Alex looked at him like, "Are you for real? Like you talking about your girl like that?" And he was like, "Look, I don't know." He looks at his phone and sees that Wendy is at their family cabin, and Alex wanted to know what was she doing there. He says, "I don't know. Let's go and find out." So Ozzy gets up to try to get ready to leave and realize he is higher than a kite, and he falls back down. Alex was like, "Oh, hell to the no. You won't be all over the news high on my supply. I'll drive." So Ozzy airdrops Wendy's location to Alex as he continues to get high. So they leave to head to the cabin, and Ozzy accidentally leaves his phone in the chair. Now that will explain why his phone never pinged anywhere else, as if he never left the house. So they finally get to the cabin, and he gets out the car stumbling to the stairs when Christian comes running out like, "Ozzy, what are you doing here?" He's like, "What are you doing here?" He basically pushes her out of the way and goes inside the cabin, and he sees Wendy tied up. And he's like, "Well, what the hell going on in here?" After he sees the pow pow on the table. She's trying to explain, and that's when we go back present time with her and Daniel. So Daniel tells her that they've reached a verdict, that they should head back, and she says, "I'll tell you the rest on the way." So when we get to the courtroom, they're reading the verdict, and Ozzy is found not guilty. Of course, he's ecstatic. He's hugging Jax, hugging his raggedy parents. We see Mike looking defeated once again. All I can tell you is do better. So we go over there to Lewis's job, and he's talking to Lena about setting up some meeting. And she gets excited because she thinks Sam is finally getting fired. So Lewis comes out of his mouth with no can do because he has a kid on the way. Like, what employer really says that when you over there effing up on your job? Like, who gives a damn at that point? But Lena was like, "Oh, from who?" So Lewis says his girlfriend, and Lena was like, "Oh, he got a girlfriend because he's always bragging about his Tinder profile." So she gives him a look like, don't be no fool. And Lewis realizes that he has been played by Sam yet again. So after the verdict is read, everyone heads over to the law firm to celebrate. So Christian, she goes up to Ozzy and apologizes for not being there. But deep down, she's feeling hella guilty because she knows her brother should have never been put in that situation in the first place. Jax comes over and invites him over for another family Sunday dinner, and he says he's going to have friends over to celebrate. So Bill goes up to Vince and Steven and basically sings Jax's praises, saying she is that girl, she's the rock star. And he basically tells both of them that when they get into this new firm, that they need to start putting some respect on Jax's name, because she is the one indeed keeping the lights on. So once he was finished bumping his gums, Vince and Steven look at each other and look back at him like, "Well, if Jax did all of that, then what the F did you do?" And he was like, "This isn't about me." And they're like, "Clearly." So Vince says to him, "If you're telling us that you did nothing to help in this case, then maybe you're not partner material." Now he's standing up there looking stupid after running his mouth. You should have been trying to to take up for Jax long before the case was over, but whatever. So Daniel, he comes in the firm and pulls Jax to the side to tell Christian's version of what happened that night Wendy was unalived. So Christian told Daniel that Wendy went over to the Edwards house to confront them about the tape. Things got out of hand. She hit her head, so she drove Wendy to the cabin unconscious. So then Ozzy and Alex show up. Ozzy high as hell. He sees what's going on, trying to figure it all out. So he's trying to untie Wendy, and because she had the head injury and was bleeding, it gets on his hands, and that's how the blood got on his sweatshirt. So by this time, he's really too high to cope, so he kind of passes out, and Christian lays him down and tries to go and get him some water. But while all of that is going on, Wendy is untying herself, and she escapes. So Christian sees her and chases behind her with the pow-pow. She starts running like Usain with no bolt when Alex sees her and yells out, "Wendy!" Christian comes behind her, letting out a shot or two, and Alex is shocked and appalled, like, "What's going on? What are you doing?" So Christian says she told Alex that she will pay him to keep quiet. So she then got in her car, dumped Wendy's purse on the side of the highway with Ozzy in the back seat, high as hell passed out, took him home with all his dead weight and was able to carry him and put him in the bed to make it seem like he had been there the entire time. And after listening to that story, Jax couldn't do nothing but shake her head, feeling sorry for Ozzy because he's surrounded by horrible people. So Jax didn't want to call the police just yet. She wanted Ozzy to enjoy his weekend before telling him that the only person in his family that he trusts is the same person who unalived the only woman he's ever loved. So Daniel says he's going to call his sister and thank her for not being an unaliver. And that inspires Jax to text Chelsea and ask her, can they meet up? So apparently Corey is back in town and he has Brandy with him, and Jax has invited the both of them over to the house. And already Lewis is expressing that he doesn't want Corey in his house and only allowing him in there because of Jax. So when they get there, he basically treats Corey the same way he treated Eddie when Eddie first came back. He didn't want to speak, he didn't shake his hand, none of that. One thing about Lewis, if he doesn't like you, he will let you know it by how he treats you. And that's cool, feel how you feel, stand on business for whatever your reason is. But the minute that he sees that Brandy is wearing an engagement ring, now he wants to dap Corey up like, oh, my man. Like, no. Don't be fake and phony because you're insecure. This fine, sexy chocolate man came in your house with his whole woman. He didn't come in here to get Jax. He didn't come in here solo. He's with his woman. Your wife had her head on his shoulder all night while you were over there frolicking around with Tony. And why are you so bothered anyway? You didn't have a problem when she was on camera hunching Will. You didn't step to Damon when you know she was hunching Damon. So why are you so bothered by Corey? You just better thank your lucky stars that you have a wife that is not living in that same headspace anymore and is so strong that she's able to resist those chocolate temptations, because baby, if he wanted her, he can get her, okay? So pipe down, Lewis. Calm down. So anyway, Brandy, she's loving their home. She's loving the location, asking all kind of questions. And for me, it was giving wishful thinking, hoping that maybe Corey would be willing to leave Chicago and move to LA. Baby, come back. Just come on back, Corey. Come on back. But anyway, now Lewis, he wants to be Mr. Hospitable and he offers to take Brandy on a tour. And that leaves Jax and Corey to talk. He congratulates her on winning the Ozzy case and she gets to talking about the firm and Raggedy Bill and how he's been moving real funny, running around with the ops trying to come up. And that reminds Corey how Steven and Vince been on that bull-ish and how they tried to have drinks with him to get him to come in to eventually buy Jax out. Jax is blowed like, what? That doesn't make any financial sense, let alone anything else. And he says it really didn't matter to him at the end of the day because he had no intentions on taking it anyway, leaving Jax speechless and feeling some kind of way, as she should. So we later see Jax meeting up with Chelsea and they chop it up for a quick minute before Chelsea decides that she's going to throw Eddie all the way under the bus, letting Jax know that he came up with this plan to get close to her so he can get some money, but it was put on pause when her mom got sick. She then fixes her lips to say that she did not want to be involved, and that's why Eddie tried to keep her and Jax apart. Now, first of all, girl, now you know you lying. Now, this whole thing could possibly be true, but I don't feel like it was Eddie's plan. I think it was your plan, and that's why Eddie said, you're a thief, you're a liar, and you're the dangerous one. And not to mention, when we met you, he was bailing you out of jail for beating somebody's behind. And the first thing you could ask him was, did you get the money? But yet and still, you and Jack's face playing, talking about you didn't want to be involved. Why do you need the money, Chelsea? That's what we want to know. So Jack says to her, you've been knowing about the plan and me this entire time, so why are you telling me now? She claims to want to have a relationship with Jax, and she asks her, why? You don't know me. So she plays victim and tells Jax that she wants a sister because she doesn't have anybody else, and mentions how Eddie has been this big disappointment in both of their lives. And she tries to make Jax see that the two of them establishing a relationship could be a good thing, considering that they've had to deal with a deadbeat daddy. So we then see Jax meeting up with Eddie in front of this funeral home, and she flat out asks him, why did you come back into my life? Was it for money? And let him know that Chelsea already contacted her. So now he's stumbling and stammering and fumbling all over his words, saying that don't let Chelsea come in between what they're trying to rebuild, and says that Chelsea got into some trouble and it was her idea to ask Jax for the money. But Jax tells him that's not what Chelsea said. So after he expresses how guilty he is for not being in her or Chelsea's life, he reassures her that he is there to make things right with her. So Jax lets him know the reason she wanted to meet him in front of the funeral home was because every time she tried to reach out and didn't hear back from him, she always wondered, was this going to be the place where she found him? And she basically told him that she was sorry that he had this addiction and disease that caused him to abandon everybody that he loved, including her. And despite him being absent in her life, she still loved him to death, even though he gave her no reason to do so, and she still did. And the crazy part is, there's a lot of kids in real life that are drawn to the absentee parent that's always making promises and never show up, or the most toxic parent. It's the craziest thing, but it happens. So while in front of this funeral home, Jax is basically laying to rest the thought of feeling like not having Eddie in her life was her loss and her trauma, but no, telling Eddie it belongs to him. And because Eddie didn't sit down and talk to Jax and tell her the entire truth from the beginning and let Chelsea come and mess up what he had going on, Jax tells him she needs some space. She don't know what's going on. She gives him a little bit of hope and says she wants to believe him. She does want a relationship, but she needs some time to decide if she even wants a father, a sister, or be bothered with either one of their ass. Now, with this storyline, we were pretty much left hanging because we still don't know what kind of trouble Chelsea is in and how much money did these fools think they were going to get out of Jax. And since we're here, I have several more questions. Where are Chelsea's 3 children? Are they with each of their fathers, or are they in DCF custody? Because how is it that she's over here frolicking around, stalking Jax and Lewis, and not mentioning these kids? Also, Eddie said that she was dangerous. Did she unalive someone? How did her mom die? Was she the cause of that? Inquiring minds want to know. So we head over there to Ozzy's house, and he's celebrating being a free man. So we see there's a house full of people. Ozzy is not even drinking. His homeboy is trying to get him to indulge in some pharmaceuticals, but he basically turns it down, but the homeboy puts it in his hand anyway. Ozzy, trying to do better, he's like, look, I don't even think I should be over here. And the friend is like, well, where else do you have to be? Next thing you know, we see him over there knocking on Jax's door because remember, she invited him over for Sunday dinner. So we get in there and we got Spencer from school, Mama Lou, Jax, Naima, Lewis, and Ozzy. So they're all having a great conversation, laughing and chucking it up and enjoying each other's company. And Ozzy basically gives Lewis and Jax their flowers for being good parents. And he tells both Spencer and Naima that if he was in a situation like this with parents like them, he wouldn't have to fight for his freedom the way he did. So I thought it was going to be some type of plot twist because, for one, I was never expecting Spencer to be in the house in the first place. But then Jack, she looks at Mama Lou and gives her the signal, and Mama Lou acknowledges, and that's when she rounds up the kids to go back to her house so they can spend the night. And I'm like, oh, Lord. So Naima, she gets a picture with Ozzy, and her and Spencer leave with Mama Lou. Lewis goes and gets their bags ready because him and Jax are going to the hospital because Autumn is getting ready to have her baby. So Jax and Ozzy, they're talking, and she suggested that he continue on seeing Autumn or someone else, but after he goes to rehab. He tells her he doesn't need rehab. He's been clean for months. So she tells him that he's been California sober and the cycle has to stop, and that's why she took it upon herself to have 2 workers from this rehabilitation center to come and pick him up, and he has like 20 minutes. Ozzy is like, are you serious? And he wants to know why is she doing this and tells her she's no better than his parents and Monica. She says she is different because she's doing what they should have been doing and she loves him. And he just breaks down and says he can't go to rehab, he's not strong enough. And I felt so bad for Ozzy. And once again, shout out to Cal Berry for doing an amazing job playing Ozzy. So Jack, she comforts him and gives him this great big hug and lets him know that he can do it, tells him to go into Spencer's room and settle his thoughts, call whoever he needs to call. So as he's going to Spencer's room, he turns around crying and he tells Jax, I'm so mad at you, but I love you too. And I'm like, poor Ozzy. So this is where we get to one of the highly anticipated reveals of the season. The two rehab people get there. Jax, she goes to knock on Spencer's door. When she goes inside, she finds Ozzy laid out unalive. She screams for help. They try to revive him, but to no avail. Ozzy is gone, overdosing off of that crap his friend gave him. Now, I did not predict that Ozzy would be in the room because I could not wrap my head around why would Ozzy be in Spencer's room. But they tried to make it make sense by having Ozzy over for dinner a couple of times and have him spend the night one good time, so it wasn't completely far-fetched that he would actually be in the house. But my prediction was either Eddie or Mama Lou, but sadly it was Ozzy and they were unable to save him. Now when it comes to this situation with Jax basically forcing Ozzy into rehab, I felt like Jax meant well. She had good intentions, but at the same time, she should have sat down and talked to Ozzy. There was a better way to handle that. I really didn't like the whole ambush type approach because Ozzy was in a good place. And now Jax has to live with some type of guilt behind this decision she made trying to help Ozzy. And one of the saddest parts about this, Jax pulls out this note that was in his jacket, and it was a to-do list of things that he had planned on doing, and it was all the things that he said in the courtroom when he was telling Mike he's not normal. Like he's never gone to the grocery store, he's never gone to the movies alone, he had never been to the amusement park with his friends, and those were the things that were on the list that he wanted to do. And I thought that was so sad, and Jax, she couldn't do nothing but start bawling, and Lewis, he's there to comfort her. So we get to Ozzy's funeral and everyone is in attendance, even the media. We see the Edwards acting like they give a damn with their crocodile tears, but only really crying because their cash cow is now being laid to rest. And it's funny how Ozzy died not knowing that his bestie, Christian, told Daniel that she had something to do with Wendy's demise. We see Monica amongst the onlookers and she's giving Jax that stare down like you done messed up. And Jax is over there looking a little shook. So Jax was standing around in her own thoughts, minding her business when Bill comes up, trying to have small talk, talking about being a partner and how he's team Jax. And Jax is like, look, this is not the time or the place. Like, she didn't have time for any of that. He's trying to go on and on when Spencer comes up and gives him that look like, you heard what my mama said type thing. Bill, he read the room, he got the hint, and he got the hell on. So Jax took a moment to talk to Spencer and made him promise her that if things got too rough when it came to his schooling or his music or whatever, that he would come to her and talk about it, and he promised her that he would. So Jax, she sees Lewis and she starts having this anxiety attack, basically blaming herself, feeling guilty because she says she failed Ozzy the same way she failed Damon. And that's a touchy subject between the two of them, but he let her know that she's really not to blame for neither one of them. Ozzy, he didn't unalive himself. He just wanted to get high one last time and his body couldn't handle it. So Rosie comes up and she wants to know from Jax, why did Ozzy go to her house? And Jax was like, because I invited him. She said, well, I invited him as well, so I guess you won. So Jax wanted to know, what did I win? And Rosie says, well, in his happiest moments, he chose to spend them with you. And says that is something she's going to have to live with. And I'm like, Rosie girl, just because you went over there and finally decided to take accountability and apologize does not mean that everything was hunky-dory. He was handling you with a long-handled spoon. You gave him his closure. He was pleased with that at the time. That's what he needed. But at the same time, he needed you and the rest of you lying mofos to stay the hell away from him. So Jax had to tell her crazy behind that no one won in this situation, not even Ozzy, after choosing his addiction over everything. But all of that went out of the window and she didn't give a damn where his last whereabouts were when this producer comes up to her wanting to talk to her. So all she heard after that was... and walked off, leaving Jax standing there, and Jax couldn't do nothing but shake her head. So Jax, she runs into Christian and she lets her know that Daniel told her what happened and wanted to know why didn't she come forward. She claimed she was scared and thought that Ozzy would be okay since she knew that they were the innocent ones. And Jax was like, innocent ones? And it hit her like a ton of bricks that Christian was not the one who unalived Wendy. Jax basically pulled her card and let her know that what her purpose was in the family, that's why she gave that BS story to Daniel and demanded that she tell her what really happened. So apparently Jax had a plan, because the next thing you know, we see Christian going to talk to her dad and telling him that they need to talk. He wasn't ready to talk. He said it wasn't the time. And she wanted to know when will be the time, because it's been months and you have yet to acknowledge what happened. And she asked him, why did he let Ozzy go through all of this? Now, for me, I am not surprised that Sal is the culprit, because I said in the beginning that Sal was not sitting in the background being quiet for no reason. I had him on my list along with Christian and Nisha. Those were my three suspects, and looky. So Christian, she's talking to him about coming clean and trying to protect Ozzy's legacy, and Sal says to her that our legacy went to ish when you failed at your only job, which was to protect Ozzy, and says that he was the only one that kept his eyes on the prize, because all her, Rosie, and Monica were doing was bringing problems, and said a Wendy problem which none of you bees could fix. So he fixed it, and says he shut her up and he can't even get a thank you. And Christian is looking perplexed like, what do you mean you shut her up? But what I'm trying to figure out is, when did Sal get this battery put in his back? He has been sitting quiet as a church mouse in the background, being meek and mild, getting told what to do by Rosie. Even Ozzy told his mama he was tired of being emasculated along with his daddy. So now all of a sudden you this big bad wolf and you calling people out of their name? Like, Sal, please go sit down somewhere. So we then get the flashback to what actually happened, and we see Wendy go storm over there to the Edwards house, ranting and raving and cursing like a sailor up in them people's house, talking about she is done keeping her mouth closed and she can't wait to tell Ozzy the truth about how his family are all manipulators and liars. So Sal says to her if she threatens to come between him and Ozzy again, he will be sending condolences to her mother. Wendy proceeds to spit in Sal's face, and he hauled off and slapped the dog-ish up out of her to where she hit her head on their table. Now, I don't know in what world did Wendy think it was okay to come in somebody's house, basically disrespect them, and then haul off and spit in their face and think nothing was going to happen. So as she's laying there unconscious with the blow to the head, Christian comes down and sees her dad and wondering what's going on, and instantly becomes an accomplice. Her and Sal tie Wendy up and they take her to the cabin, and that's where we see Ozzy come into the picture. So with this part, everything Christian had already said was true, except Sal was actually there. Ozzy passed out. Sal is trying to revive him. Christian ran off to get the Narcan, and that's when Wendy made her escape. So instead of Christian being the one that chased after her with the pow-pow, it was actually Sal. So he tells Christian they don't need to be calling Rosie, just go in there and clean the stuff up. He looks at Alex and tells him don't say a word, all his money problems will go away. That's probably where the $10,000 came into play. So he chases after Wendy in the woods. So he finally finds her, and she's called herself hiding behind this thin ass tree. So Sal says to her, let's end this. How much is it gonna take to make you finally go away? And Wendy starts talking cash-ish. So she starts talking like some little grizzly bear, using her last little breath to tell him she don't give a damn about the money, and she has no plans on going anywhere because she needs Ozzy and Ozzy needs her, and she's going to make sure whatever he didn't remember, she's going to be the one to fill him in. So then after making all of those threats, she decides she wants to scream, and Sal had to shut her up, so he put his hand over her mouth, and he continued to keep his hand over her mouth until she was no longer breathing. So I'm trying to figure out, why did Dr. Wilder say that the concussion is what unalived Wendy, because clearly that was not the case. But nevertheless, Sal, he drags her body over some and he covers her up with this mossy looking grass, and he leaves like nothing ever happened. So we come back present day, and Christian is saying to him like, you told me that you couldn't find her in the woods. So Sal is standing there with all this liquid courage talking to Christian like she's some stranger on the street, like, sir, this is your daughter. So he basically tells her that she allowed Ozzy to be unalived on her watch, and that although it's taken some years, he's come to terms with the fact that all she does for the family is F things up. So Christian says, is that enough? And Sal is looking at her like, what are you talking about? So the next thing you know, we see Jax coming around the corner on the phone telling Christian, thanks, that's great. Ozzy would be proud. Sal wanted to know, what did you do? Christian tells him, what I do best, F things up. Your words, not mine. So the police, they swoop on in and slightly and politely escort Sal right up on out of there. And I'm trying to figure out what kind of deal did Christian get, because she played a major part in this and was aiding and abetting, lying and everything else. She may not have done the pow or the suffocation of it all, but I would think that she has some type of punishment coming her way as well. So Daniel, he goes up to Christian and she's apologizing and telling him it wasn't all lies. I love you. He says, I know I love you too. She wants to know, will she ever see him again? And he tells her probably not and walks off. I was like, okay, Daniel. So in the next scene, we see Jax coming into the firm looking good in all her red, looking like the powerhouse that she is. So she walks in on Bill, Steven, and Vince celebrating and wants to know what's the occasion. They tell her that Bill has just made partner. And she's looking at them like, oh, really? So Jax, she asked them, so this decision was made and finalized without a partner's vote or a meeting. So Vince says they haven't officially met, but they will, especially pending the acquisition they have coming with the other company. And Jax is really, really caught off guard and surprised. And she's like, wow, 2 surprises in one day. So she asks the $1 million question, why wasn't I looped in? Steven comes with all this mumbo jumbo about they were dealing with fewer managing partners, so they had to keep it under wraps. But yet and still, you told Bill with your lying ass. Steven, please. So Vince, he tries to placate Jax by telling her not all the partners will be retained, but this will always be her home. And she's looking at him like, oh, really? So Jax, she excuses herself and Bill goes chasing behind her, trying to now kiss her behind, talking about, oh, I told them that they need to put some respect on your name, blah, blah, blah. And Jax didn't want to hear that BS. She tells him, so you mean to tell me you told the men that I've been working with for 1,000,000 years to finally give me the respect that I should have been getting the whole time? So she asked him, what do you want for doing all of that, a cookie? They can have that and so can you, partner. And she walked off. So she goes to her desk and she's sitting down and she's looking around and she's contemplating and she's thinking long, but she damn sure wasn't thinking wrong. She's Summer Walker up in this piece and finally over it. She gets up and she goes to get a box. She comes back and she starts packing up her stuff. And I'm like, yes, Jax, yes, that's what I'm talking about. So she walks up out of there and doesn't say one mumbling word to anyone, walking out holding her head up high with a smile on her face, knowing her worth and that she is exactly who she thinks she is. This is something most of the audience have been wanting since season 1, so shout out to Jax for finally getting the hell away from those clowns. And speaking of clowns, we go over there to Lewis's office and Sam comes in. Lewis asks him, have you had a chance to look at the engine codes? And he said, oh yeah, they look good. So Lewis says he's a little concerned about the lag. Can you pull it up for me? And hands him a tablet. So Sam, he's tapping and Lewis is like, any day now. So he finally says, I'm having some trouble finding it. Lewis has to let him know that's because there's nothing in the folder. And had you opened it, you would have already known there was nothing there. Lewis lets him know that the games have come to an end. He has to let him go. So Sam, he starts that thing where he thinks he's going to play in Lewis's face again, calling him a house ninja and that they don't care nothing about him, blah, 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 saying that he's had no formal write-ups and he would have to explain a wrongful termination lawsuit. And Lewis really didn't want to hear what he was talking about. He's basically like, I'll be that, but I have documented every incomplete, incompetent deceit connected to your employment here, and basically told him, get the F up out of my office and call security on him like today is your last day. So we come to the final scenes, and I'm not quite sure how much time has passed or where we are with the timeline, but we get a montage of what everybody has going on with Mary J playing in the background, no more drama. We see Lewis and Jax, they're in a good place. We see Jax talking to Crystal and telling her she wants to open up her own firm. We see Bill ready to take on being partner. He is dressing different and went and got him a new car. We see Rosie over there still making money off of Ozzy, doing all kind of interviews, and I'm waiting for her to get arrested for what happened to Alex. We see that Autumn had her baby girl Aria, and the ladies are loving her. We then see Sally and Bill together, and as they're talking, I thought maybe Chris or Kendra was gonna come up and pop off, but that didn't happen, so I guess they were trying to show us that the two of them were still kicking it. They're together maybe, I don't know. What is up with their divorces? Are they finalized? Did Chris take the kids to North Carolina? Like, what happened? So in the final scene, we see Jackson Lewis moving her into her own ish, the Stewart firm. So it's her first day. It's her, Daniel, and Lewis. They're inside unpacking things. When someone comes in, Jax goes to the front to see who it is, and we see that it's Monica looking toe up from the flow up, and she has a weapon in her hand. And Jax is trying to stop her, and we hear the pow pow go off, and we fade to black. And that is where the episode ends and the season. Woo, child. Monica, girl, you told them in the parking garage that you were going to get your revenge, and I said then that, Jax, you need to take heed because this woman is cuckoo. So I'm not surprised that Monica is actually making an attempt to do just that. What I would like to know is how the hell she knows where Jack's new law firm is. I actually thought she was going to go after Ozzy and Jax when they left the courtroom and pull the old man on New Jack City, waiting for them in the parking garage, but she didn't do that. And I feel like when she stared Jax down at Ozzy's funeral, it was already set in her mind that Jax had to go. Now, I don't know who actually got hit, but I feel like it should be Lewis, considering the fact that all season long he has been stressing that he has to protect his wife. So he can take a little bullet. He'll probably just get grazed in the shoulder or something and get it put in an arm sling. He'll be all right. Now, with the exception of Jax, because she is the main character of the show, if McKinley or the actor playing Daniel, if they're not leaving the show on their own terms, I feel like no one will be unalived, even if they do get hit. So guys, drop down in the comments and let me know who you thought actually got popped. As far as the show goes, I love the show. It was a solid season. Shout out to Ramla, the entire cast and crew. Everyone did an amazing job, and I'm so glad that we are already renewed for season 4. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what you guys thought about the season as a whole. What did you think about the finale? Let's talk about predictions for season 4. We have plenty of time to talk about it. With that being said, I appreciate all of the support. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.